celebrating our connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio.
We welcome to the show Robert Kass and Elizabeth Carrie, who are lawyers. Tell us, you're estate planners, and what made you decide to write the book?
Bob had kind of mentioned situations that had occurred in connection with estate planning that he had done for clients, and it got me thinking about my own situation with my dog. I have a 13-year-old German Shepherd with allergies and arthritis and all kinds of maladies that I started taking care of that I got from my brother, one of those famous free dogs. And just thinking about, I have people that would be willing to take care of her if something, God forbid, happened to me, but I didn't want to saddle somebody with the financial burden of that. So in connection with Bob's work that he's done with clients, it got me thinking about my own situation.
When you think about Pet Trust, you think about Leona Helmsley, the $12 million trust, and that whole thing went awry. What happened there?
Well, in that case, she wasn't reasonable. She left too much, and the courts in every state have the authority to cut back the amount a person leaves for a pet trust.
Really?
So the objective really is to leave enough, and a lot of folks don't really know what that is. So in the book, we go through a way that you can budget and estimate and also take into account unanticipated expenses.
Why can't you leave your pet as much as you want to leave them? I don't understand that. She wanted to leave $12 million to Trouble, was his name.
Yes, Maltese Poodle. Well, the courts have the ability under the state laws to cut back amounts that are deemed excessive, and that's how it is. A lot of people think they can do whatever they want with their property. Part of the message of the book is you need to take the law into account.
Well, if you leave $12 million and the law says, well, that's just too much, what happens to the rest of the money?
Well, in that case, it went to a charity. She set up a charitable foundation. In fact, the reason that there was an issue there is whatever didn't go to the pet trust went to this charitable foundation, and the attorney general in each state is kind of the guardian of charities in general, so the attorney general intervened and had it cut back to only $2 million.
So we could only leave so much for our animals, and that's based on what? Our income? How much?
No, it's based on the needs of the animal, the anticipated expenses. In fact, if you look at some of the court cases, the court looks at the animal's life expectancy, what it takes really to take care of an animal, factor in some unanticipated things as the animal gets older, and then the court could come up with a reasonable number. But a person could do the same, and if a person did that, then the court wouldn't get involved because it would be reasonable.
That was kind of a high-visibility case, but I see in this press release that you guys have sent us that there's a lot of different cases. Give us something that's more identifiable to me.
Well, most people would not be leaving huge amounts, but I think that what folks, pet owners need to think about, first of all, is are they going to be responsible pet owners, or are they just going to blindly assume everything's going to be okay? And when I mean everything is not going to be okay, it means someday you may get in a car accident, you may end up in the hospital. Is anybody going to know when they pick you up off the freeway that you've got a pet at home? And so what we recommend is thinking not only about planning for death, but planning for accidents and disability, having a wallet card in your wallet which indicates that there's a pet at home, what kind of pet, and who the contact people are, the vet, and somebody who could step in and get access to your place.
That's a good idea.
Imagine if there's a fire at home. Is anybody going to know if you're out for the afternoon, fire occurs, that there's a pet inside? So everybody ought to have a door sign. These are kind of things that you can get at the vet supply shop. We include them in the book as cutouts that people could just use right there. Then they have to plan for what happens in the event of their death. And lots of folks, when we launched the book at the Detroit Kennel Club Dog Show, a lot of pet owners were saying, my kids are going to take care of it. And in many cases, that'll be true. But in a number of cases, the kids were standing right there with the pet owner and waving their hand. No, we're not going to take care of your dog. So you really need to talk to your family about it. Make sure that they understand the responsibility and that it is going to perhaps change their lifestyle. And get the right people in line with the right amount of money. Provide care instructions so that you don't just assume that. And we're not only talking about dogs and cats, we're talking about any kind of pet. For example, a parrot, which is very difficult to take care of, a horse, which you can't just assume someone's going to take care of. Make the proper arrangements, which sometimes ends up with a pet trust.
I've heard of some loopholes where a person was left X amount of money to care for the animal, and then they turned around and euthanized the animal because there was nothing that said they couldn't.
Well, we heard of a case in talking to, Betty, why don't you tell them about this one, about the cat?
Yeah, we had heard about a case where the money, the pet owner left money set aside for the care of her cat and left the nephew in charge of that. Mm-hmm. And she died and came to the trustee and said, well, I want the $5,000 for taking care of the cat. Mm-hmm. And the trustee said, well, no, that money's, for the cat's care and to take care of the cat. And the nephew said, well, I took care of the cat.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's horrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So how much How much did Trouble end up getting?
Trouble has a trust, I believe, with $2 million, and the annual expenses are running about $60,000 for the caregiver, which is a hotel manager, and I doubt that he actually walks the dog himself. It's a Helmsley Hotel in Florida.
Sure.
Pay $1,500 to $1,800 for food, maybe $6,000 to $8,000 for grooming, and my guess is the groomer comes to the hotel. And then some budgeted monies for vet expenses, and $100,000 a year for 24-hour private security.
Sure. Bob and Betty, the book is really, really good, and it's very important that, especially if you're a bird owner or you have an animal that's going to outlive you, that you do plan your estate, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. What is the most common mistake people make when planning their pet's future welfare?
As I've seen it, it's probably not doing any planning at all. They assume that they're going to outlive their pet. That'll probably happen, in many cases will happen, but I think people, what we say is expect the best and plan for the worst. You never can tell what's going to happen. So whether it's an accident, whether it's a tornado or firestorm or whatever, we think the biggest mistake people make is not to plan at all.
The book is Who Will Care When You're Not There? The authors Robert Kass and Elizabeth Carrie. A very important book. I have 10 copies to give away right now at 1-866-405-8405. However, if you're not lucky enough to get through, head on over to your bookstore and pick it up.
Actually, Amazon will have them.
Amazon, Borders, Barnes & Noble?
No, Amazon
Just
usually,
Amazon.
And if people want them in quantities, then they should go to the publisher's website. Can I give that web address?
Absolutely.
It's www.carobtree, C-A-R-O-B, tree, press, one word. And people are ordering them in quantities to give as gifts and also for fundraising, because we'll give them wholesale pricing, and part of the money can go to an animal welfare organization or to your own pet club or breeder organization.
You're doing a good thing. We'll put a link at the website at animalradio.com. Anything you've heard on today's show at animalradio.com. Bob, Betty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having us.
More Animal Radio on the way.